For 20 years, pilots have been told that safety is just a red handle away, a promise sold by Cirrus and packaged in composite and software. But what if depending on a parachute actually makes you more vulnerable than flying a 50-year-old slab of aluminum and steel? The Cessna 210 doesn't come with a panic button, it comes with a legacy built on surviving what plastic planes cannot. The real safety gap isn't in the cockpit, it is hiding in the airframe, waiting for the engine to quit. So before you trust your life to new plastic, ask yourself, when the ground rushes up, do you want to be flying a parachute or piloting a machine that was built to take the hit? In 2001, Cirrus rolled out the SR22 with a promise that sounded more like a consumer electronics pitch than an aviation announcement. The message was simple: flying should feel as easy as driving to the grocery store. No gear lever, no prop control, no cowl flaps. The after-takeoff checklist? It shrank to a single item. What they were really selling was the idea that you could step into a high-performance airplane and act like a passenger, not a pilot. The red handle overhead became the centerpiece. Pull it and the parachute takes over. The sales brochures and press releases hammered home the theme of effortless safety. They told buyers that technology could replace judgment, that software and composites could make the risks of flight fade into the background. This was not just a new airplane, it was a new mindset. Pilots were encouraged to trust the system more than their own hands. Flying, once a craft that demanded skill and sweat, was rebranded as a push-button experience. The SR22 became the Flying Tesla, sleek, quiet, and wrapped in the glow of automation. Meanwhile, the old guard, the pilots who grew up wrenching on Cessnas and learning by doing, watched as the culture shifted. The phrase "pilot as passenger" crept in, not as an insult, but as a selling point. The result? A generation of owners trained to believe that the most important safety feature in the cockpit was not their own decision-making, but a handle in the ceiling. Confidence is a funny thing in aviation. The more the machine promises to protect you, the easier it is to let your guard down. Owners of the SR22 often talk about the peace of mind that comes from having a parachute overhead, but in the hangar, the old hands swap a different kind of story. They talk about hours spent in the pattern, sweating through crosswind landings, and practicing engine outs until muscle memory takes over. That is not nostalgia, it is necessity. A pilot who flies a Cessna 210 knows the airplane will not save him from a bad decision. He is forced to stay sharp, to keep his skills fresh, because there is no backup plan waiting in the ceiling. Forums are full of reminders. You want to survive? Go fly with an instructor. Practice your stalls. Know your glide numbers. In the world of old steel, safety is not a feature you buy. It is something you earn, 1 hour at a time. The SR22's promise of effortless safety changes how people fly. When you believe the technology will cover your mistakes, you fly into weather you should not, or push fuel reserves thinner than you would in a machine that demands respect. Cirrus transition training is supposed to fill the gap, but proficiency is not a weekend course. It is a habit. The more you treat a plane like an appliance, the more you risk forgetting that flying is a discipline, not a convenience. That is a lesson the old guard learned the hard way, and one the new generation ignores at their peril. Delamination is the silent killer in composite airframes. You can walk around an SR22 after a hard landing and see nothing but a scuffed belly, while inside the skin the glue has let go. The bond between the carbon fiber and the foam core, the thing that keeps the airplane together, can separate without a single ripple in the paint. The only way to find it is with a tap test or ultrasound, and even then you are working blind. A composite technician will tell you there is no such thing as a quick patch. Every repair starts with a call to the factory, a stack of photos, and a wait for engineering to send back a custom plan. If the damage is structural, the real work begins. The shop strips the skin, cuts out the bad area, and builds up layers of resin and cloth, one by one. Each layer has to cure in a controlled oven, never less than 8 hours at a time. Miss the temperature by 10 degrees, or let the humidity creep up, and the bond is worthless. The airplane sits, sometimes for weeks, until every spec is signed off and the structure is as strong as new, at least on paper. Lightning is another nightmare. Aluminum spreads the charge and shrugs it off, composites do not. A bolt can punch a hole through the wing, leaving charred resin and hidden cracks that spider out beyond what you can see. The Cirrus service notes spell it out. Any suspected lightning strike means a full inspection, usually a trip to a certified repair center and more downtime. Insurance adjusters know the drill: too much hidden risk, too much time in the shop. That is why owners talk about the real cost of composite, not just the price of a repair, but the weeks lost waiting for the oven to finish its work. In the world of new plastic, a simple mistake or a stray storm can ground you for a month, all because the damage hides where you cannot see and takes a technician, not a mechanic, to make it right. Aluminum tells you when it's tired. Every Cessna 210 in the world wears its scars out in the open, cracks at the rivet lines, wrinkles in the skin, a web of fatigue you can see and touch. That is not a flaw. That is a feature. When a spar takes a hit, there is no mystery. The mechanic pops the inspection panel, finds the crease, and gets to work. A benchtop rivet splice can bring a wounded spar back to life in less than 3 days. The process is almost surgical. Drill out the damaged rivets, clean the edges, fit a new splice plate, and cold buck the rivets back in. No waiting on factory engineers, no custom molds, no ovens. Just skill, a box of AN-470s, and a steady hand. The repair log fills up, the airplane goes back on the line, and the pilot knows exactly what is holding the wing together. This is the aluminum advantage. The structure is not just strong, it is honest. Damage reveals itself in time for you to do something about it. Fatigue cracks grow slow and loud, giving you a chance to catch them before they become fatal. FAA's airworthiness directives for the 210. Spell it out. Inspect here, look there, fix as needed. The tools are simple, the parts are available, and the work can be done on the ramp or in the corner of a crowded hangar. Compare that to the weeks lost waiting for composite repairs. In the world of old steel, downtime is measured in days, not months. Insurance adjusters prefer it, mechanics respect it, and pilots trust it. When the worst happens, a hard landing, a fence post, a surprise pothole, the aluminum bird is never out of the fight for long. The repair is not just possible, it is practical. The Cessna 210 was built for this kind of punishment. It absorbs, it yields, and when it bends, it begs you to fix it. That is the difference between a disposable shell and a working machine. Every safety system has a boundary, and the Cirrus parachute is no exception. Open the pilot operating handbook for the SR22, and the numbers are right there in black and white. The parachute is certified for deployment at speeds up to 133 knots indicated. Push it any faster, and the structure risks tearing itself apart before the canopy can even do its job. That is not a suggestion. It is the upper limit, and it is written into the training from day one. Altitude is the other hard stop. Factory tests show that from level flight, the system needs at least 400 to 500 feet of altitude to go from handle pull to a fully inflated canopy. In a spin or an out-of-control attitude, that number can jump to nearly 1,000 feet before the descent stabilizes. That is why Cirrus instructors drill the 2,000-foot rule into every new owner. If you are above 2,000 feet, you have time to troubleshoot. Below that, if you are out of options, you pull immediately, no hesitation, no second guessing. The numbers do not care about optimism or luck. The checklist for a CAPS pull is short but unforgiving. Remove the cover, grab the red handle, and yank it down with both hands, about 45 pounds of force. The rocket fires, the bag launches, and the next 20 seconds decide everything. The descent rate under canopy is about 1,700 feet per minute, which means you will hit the ground with the force of a 13-foot fall. That is survivable, but only if you are within the envelope. The seats and landing gear are designed to absorb the impact, but the rest is up to the pilot's timing. This is the technical reality behind the promise. The red handle is not magic. It is a tool, and like any tool, it works only when used within its limits. When the numbers are respected, caps can save lives. When they are ignored, there is no second chance. The boundaries are clear, and the airplane will not bend the rules for anyone. Stress doesn't care how many hours you logged last year. When the engine coughs over the tree line or the horizon disappears in cloud, the cockpit shrinks to a single question: what do I do now? Training manuals talk about decision points and checklists, but the human brain is a stubborn machine. Under pressure, even the best pilots freeze, fixate, or lose precious seconds to disbelief. It is not a character flaw, it is biology. Task saturation, tunnel vision, and the raw surge of adrenaline can turn a simple procedure into a maze. The Cirrus standardized instructor curriculum drills the cap's pull until it is muscle memory. But real emergencies do not happen in the simulator. In the heat of the moment, pilots still hesitate. They troubleshoot, they scan the gauges, they convince themselves the engine will catch. The red handle waits overhead, but the mind races through old habits. Check fuel, cycle mags, try one more switch. Seconds bleed away. There is a case buried in the NTSB docket that tells the story in hard numbers. A pilot, trained and current, flying an SR22 over the Midwest. The engine quits at low altitude just after takeoff. The checklist says, pull the chute immediately if you are below 2,000 feet and out of options. But the pilot tries to glide, tries to restart, tries to salvage the flight. By the time the red handle is pulled, there is less than 400 feet between the wings and the corn. The parachute never has a chance to inflate. The impact is fatal. The investigation finds no mechanical fault, just a delay measured in seconds that closed the window for survival. This is the gap between theory and practice. The promise of the parachute depends on instant action, but humans are not machines. Under stress, hesitation is normal. The old hands in the hangar know it. When your life depends on a split-second decision, the only thing faster than panic is muscle memory. That is why they train for failure, not just for the checklist. The red handle is only as quick as the pilot who grabs it. When the system expects perfection, the margin for error disappears. That is not a safety net. It is a trap waiting for the next pilot who believes the brochure. A forced landing in a field is the ultimate test of what a plane is really made of. Picture a Cessna 210, gear up, engine out, dropping into a muddy cornfield at 60 knots. The pilot lines up, kills the switches, and commits to the slide. When the belly hits, the main gear doors and the flat aluminum underside turn into a sled, dissipating energy as the airplane skims across the dirt. The rotation never starts. The nose stays up, the tail stays down. The force spreads out, and the airframe absorbs the punishment like a crumple zone in a truck. The doors may jam, but the structure holds. Most of the time, the pilot walks away, shaken but whole. Now swap in a Cirrus SR22. It has fixed gear, a composite shell, and low propeller clearance. The wheels touch soft ground and the nose digs in. At that moment, the load is not spread across the belly, it is focused on the nose gear and the propeller. The angle of attack flips from flight to disaster in a heartbeat. The rotation initiates fast. The plane pivots over its nose and the tail snaps skyward. The composite fuselage, designed for lightness, faces a concentrated force it cannot distribute. The cabin becomes upside down in an instant, windows shattered, seats slammed against the roof. NTSB images tell the story. Cessnas on their bellies, battered but upright. Cirrus wrecks with wheels in the air and cockpits inverted. In the hangar, operators swap stories of field landings where the 2-on-10 slid to a stop with nothing but a dented belly and a ruined ego. The SR22 in the same dirt ends up on its back. That is not luck. That is physics. The difference is the path the energy takes and whether it gets a chance to run out before it runs you over. A glance at the classifieds tells a hard truth. A used Cirrus SR22 commands 3 times the price of a Cessna 210. For the cost of one new plastic bird, you could overhaul a trio of 210s and still have fuel money left. But the real difference is not just in the check you write, it is in what you get for your money when the mission gets heavy. The numbers in the pilot operating handbook do not lie. A late model SR22 struggles to haul 4 adults and full fuel with a useful load hovering just above 1,100 pounds. The 210, by comparison, eats up the same job with room to spare. Useful loads routinely top 1,400 pounds, sometimes pushing 1,600. That is not a rounding error. That is the difference between bringing your friends and leaving someone behind on the ramp. Payload is not just a bragging right. When you are crossing mountains or hauling gear, every pound counts. The Cessna 210 was built to do real work. Outfitters, bush pilots, and skydiving outfits run them hard because they can. Insurance underwriters know it too, aluminum fixes fast, and downtime is measured in days, not weeks. The SR22's composite shell, once cracked, means weeks in the shop and a bill that makes your eyes water. Then there is the fire risk. Composite resins in the SR22 start to break down at 675 degrees Fahrenheit. In a crash, that is not just a number, it is a warning. Aluminum deforms and punctures, but it does not feed a fire the way resin does. When the dust settles, the difference between walking away and running from flames comes down to what your airplane is made of. In the end, the 210 hauls more, costs less, and gives you a better chance when things go sideways. That is the kind of math you can trust, no matter what the brochure says. Right now, aviation still rewards the pilot who masters metal over the passenger who trusts in plastic. With composite repairs costing up to 10 times more than aluminum, and NTSB data showing survivability often comes down to structural integrity. The choice is not just about comfort, it is about control. In the end, engineering still decides who walks away. Let me know where you would put your trust in the comments below.